Chapter 8. The Dark Trinity. If the gods were to return, if they were to re-enter Western civilization, how would they do it? And what gods would they be? They would not come as they had in ancient times. A modern world requires a different approach, and a world that had been touched by the gospel and had known the word of God was far different from the pre-Christian and pagan world that had not. So the gods would alter their appearances and hide their identities. It would begin in the shadows, on the fringes of American society and Western culture. It was there that the gods gained their first footholds, and from there they began their steady and progressive penetration of mainstream culture. But their ultimate object was not infiltration but domination. The opening of the door. The gods could only return if there had been a falling away from the Christian faith and a biblical worldview. No single event or date can be pinpointed as the beginning of that falling away. It was a process, but there were milestones, turning points, and moments of critical mass. In the mid to late 20th century, America's departure from God became increasingly discernible. The nations of Western Europe were in the midst of a similar departure. The falling away would continue through the end of the 20th century and into the 21st, unabated, deepening, widening, increasing in magnitude and momentum. This time period, the late 20th and early 21st century, represented the most widespread and massive falling away from the Christian faith and morality in the entire 2,000-year history of the Christian age. The falling away would go hand in hand with the return of the ancient spirits. America was the leading nation of the era and focal point of the post-World War II order. What would happen to American culture would touch the world. If the spirits could enter and gain possession of the American house, they could possess the age. The spiritual DNA. But if the gods were returning, then which gods? America is not made up of any one ethnicity or people group, but many, almost all. In many ways, America is a composite and summation of Western civilization. So then what gods could relate not to one nation or ethnicity within Western civilization, but to all of them or to Western civilization as a whole? The answer goes back to ancient Israel. The faith of Western civilization comes from ancient Israel. The Bible consists of the writings of Israel, the Psalms of Israel, the Chronicles and history of Israel, the prophecies of Israel, and the Gospel of Israel. The spiritual DNA of Western civilization comes from, and in many ways is the spiritual DNA of ancient Israel. Seduced by other gods. In the case of America, the connection is even stronger, as Israel was consecrated to God from its inception. So was America. America was established after the pattern of ancient Israel. In its founding days, the Puritan leader John Winthrop gave the new civilization a charge based on Moses' charge to the Israelites. If America followed the ways of God, he said, it would become the most blessed, prosperous and powerful of civilizations, but he also gave a prophetic warning. But if our heart shall turn away, so that we will not obey, but shall be seduced and worship and serve other gods, our pleasure and profits, and serve them, we shall surely perish. So America, and its inception, was given the same warning that Israel was given at its inception. It was warned against turning away from God and to the gods. It was warned against the seduction of the gods, just as the gods had seduced Israel. The gods of apostasy. And in this is the key that answers the question. The gods, or spirits, that have returned to America and Western civilization are the same gods and spirits that seduced ancient Israel in the days of its apostasy. In other words, if the nation founded after the pattern of ancient Israel, America, should apostatize from God, then it would become subject to the same gods and principalities that ancient Israel became subject to in its apostasy from God. The same principle applies on a larger scale to Western civilization. If a civilization indwelled by Israel's faith and word should apostatize from the faith, it would become subject to the same gods and spirits of Israel's apostasy. The Dark Trinity. So then what were the gods of Israel's apostasy? There were several, but three of them were of special prominence. The three gods embodied the apostasy itself. One of the three remained something of a mystery. Another of the three was both one and many, and the other changed identities and appearances depending on the time, place, people, and culture. Together they constituted Israel's Dark Trinity. As for America, though there are many spirits and principalities, it is this same Dark Trinity that is most prominent in its fall from God, just as it was in Israel's fall from God. As they transformed ancient Israel, they are now transforming America and Western civilization, and through this, the world. The repaganization. Pagan spirits inhabit pagan vessels. Pagan gods indwell pagan cultures. What would happen then if the ancient pagan gods returned to a civilization based on a Judeo-Christian foundation, worldview, and moral framework? What would happen is that their return would trigger a metamorphosis. The Christian or biblically based culture would begin transforming into a pagan one. Christian values would be replaced by pagan values, Christian ethics by pagan ethics, and a Christian worldview by a pagan worldview. We would witness the paganization of American civilization and the repaganization of Western civilization. We now uncover the mask behind the first of the three gods, the Dark Trinity, the possessor